Septimont is finally here and it is amazing. Kuro absolutely cooked with this new region, as well as fixed a lot of the flaws that persisted in older areas of the game. Yes, even Raguna. However, there are still some problems within this new region, as well as Kuro's design philosophy as a whole, that do still need to be addressed. So, let's talk about it. The highs and the lows of Septimont. Starting things off, the introduction to this new region was nothing short of amazing. Seeing the clouds part revealing this giant fortress of a city was such a breathtaking experience. Not to mention the music. Oh my god, the music. I got goosebumps, not gonna lie. It's not only a great addition to the scene, but it also enhances what's already there. And that's what music in video games should be. It tells you a story, explores the theme, and sets the scene for what's to come before you even set foot in the new region, and I love that. Not to mention, Septimon itself looks absolutely beautiful. You can tell Kuro spent a lot of time improving the visual fidelity with this new update. The lighting looks amazing, the vegetation is detailed, and the world as a whole feels a lot more alive. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, these visual enhancements did come with their own set of issues, but we'll get more into that later. Kuro also introduced interactive environments with this update, and I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty fun. It adds so much to the immersive aspect of Septimont, and I love when game devs add features that don't need to be there. It's those tiny details that make great games stand out from good games. Something else you notice pretty early on is that Septimont feels lived in. We're told by NPCs that the region has been inhabited for more than 4,000 years, and you actually feel that while exploring. Everywhere you look, there's villages, houses, and general structures. It doesn't feel like the entire population of Septimont is confined to one single jurisdiction the way it does in other regions. And to sell this feeling even further, Kuro fixed the problem that I never even noticed existed in older areas. That being the logic behind enemy spawn locations. In older regions, a lot of enemy spawn areas felt random. There were a few outliers, but for the most part you could find almost every enemy everywhere. In Septimont, however, Kuro placed a lot of emphasis on making the enemy spawns feel more logical. The only enemies you'll find while exploring the central, more populated areas of Septimont are either human or smaller tacet discords, like the Drakes. It's only once you start exploring the abandoned outer areas of Septimont that you start to find bigger and stronger enemies, like the Karasauri. Except for these guys, I don't know why they're here. In a region filled with people who love fighting and where gladiating is a huge part of their culture, it makes sense that a lot of the populated areas would be rid of any nearby threats. It makes it so easy to believe that people actually live out their day-to-day lives in Septimont, unlike in other regions. For example, in Raguna, there is literally one of those red aura enemies on the way to Avararda Bank. You can't convince me that people walk here to work every single day when this guy's standing right in the middle of the path. It just doesn't make sense, and I'm glad that Kuro took notice of this issue when designing Septimont. Also, speaking of enemies, I love how we're finally going up against humans who are able to summon echoes. I'm surprised it took so long for Kuro to add this, considering Renacita was heavily marketed to be the land of echoes, but it's here and I'm happy about it. The culture of Septimont is also a lot more apparent. Kuro presents the customs of this new region not just through the designs of the area itself, but also through the people you meet along the way. And I'm not just talking about important characters like Lupa or Augusta. You interact with a lot of NPCs throughout the main story quest, and through them you learn so much about the people of Septimont. They have a passion for battles, even buying tickets for the Great Aegon the same way we buy tickets to watch sporting events. You're given an in-depth look into the mindset of these people, and through that we see problems that exist in our own society, like how they value the words of a winner over the words of a loser, or how crying as a gladiator is something to be ashamed of. And even though that doesn't paint the people of Septimont in the best light, it enhances the sense of realism you already feel in this new area. Because in the real world, everything isn't black and white, people are flawed, and everyone has a bit of good and a bit of bad in them. I just hope they start applying this logic to the playable characters as well. Overall, it's just a nice change of pace from something like Raguna, where we only really got to know about the three main factions. We're also told so much about the history of Septimont and the changes it has gone through, like how the Great Aegon is a lot less brutal than it used to be, which again makes it feel like a region that, as we've been told, has been developing for a long time. Something I noticed in the main story quest was that this time we were thrown straight into the middle of a conspiracy. We find out that while we were helping Shakona uncover the secrets of the Golden Anthem, Lupa was caught up in a match-fixing scandal, and we arrive in Septimont right as she manages to untangle herself from that mess. Initially, when we were told during the preview livestream that we'd be participating in the Great Aegon, I just assumed the story would follow that really old anime cliche where the main protagonist coincidentally arrives in a new town the same day a big event is about to start. Thankfully, we were instead thrown straight into the semifinals. Wuthering Waves in general has a problem where the world as a whole doesn't feel alive. There's always only one moving part in the story at a time, and that's the part that Rover is in. It's almost as if every other region stops existing when Rover is not present in it, and I'm glad it actually feels like stuff was happening in Septimont before Rover arrived. Now, probably my favorite part about Septimont is Septimont City itself. I'm pretty sure we've all at one point in life thought to ourselves, wow, towns and cities in video games are so small compared to real life. Because, yeah, they are. It's something that becomes very noticeable over time, especially in games that involve you traveling between different towns and cities. Obviously, I don't expect every in-game location to be the size of San Andreas or Night City, but it still felt underwhelming when you would enter a new city for the first time and find out it was made up of only like 5 to 6 houses. And I think Kuro felt the same way because Septimont City is massive. Like, it's literally half the entire region. And it's not just a copy paste of the same 5 houses. There is so much in this city, from advertisements to night performances, even cable cars that take you to the upper levels. Every area you enter feels unique and distinct from the last. There's so much personality within the NPCs standing around, which is something Kuro started doing with Draguna and have taken to the next level in Septimont. If I had to describe Septimont in one sentence, I'd probably say it's ancient Rome in the modern day. And Septimont City embodies that perfectly. Kuro did such a great job of blending the architecture of ancient Rome with the elements that exist within our modern world. It feels like I'm exploring an actual city, and everywhere I look, there's something interesting going on. I'm glad Kuro started improving on their city design since I felt like it's been lacking since the release of the game. All of the cities we've had up until now have either felt way too small or just uninspired, so it's nice to see them take a different direction in Septimont, especially considering we might be going to the new Federation in 3.0, and it's supposed to be one of the biggest and most advanced nations in all of Solaris. Okay, I've been glazing the hell out of this new region, but as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there are still a few problems present within Septimont. The first and most obvious one is optimization. I'm not even exaggerating, I'm facing more problems in 2.4 than I did even in 1.0. It's that bad. And it's not just me. Now, to Kuro's credit, they have rolled out a few patches that did slightly increase the performance. It's definitely a lot more stable now, but as of writing the script, there's still a notable dip in performance when comparing Septimon to older regions. And you may be thinking, well, Kuro did increase the graphics with this update. Obviously, it's going to perform worse. Well, that's what I initially thought too, but turns out there's actually a bug in game where if you go to the edge of the map and relaunch your game, your performance goes back to normal. So that means a lot of people's devices are able to handle Septimont. Kuro just messed up with the optimization somewhere. We're never beating the Wuthering Waves allegations, are we? Optimizations aside, another big problem with Septimont is the fragmentation. This problem existed since Renaceda's release, and it's not as bad in Septimont, but it's definitely still noticeable, especially with these two areas here. For those of you who are unaware, Renacida in general has a problem where every area within a region feels so distinct to the point where it completely abandons the central theme of the region. 1 second you'd be in Venus and the next second you're in Elden Ring. And don't just take it from me, the devs already admitted to this and said they're working on improving it for 3.0. Now, to be completely honest, I don't think the areas themselves feel too distinct from one another this time. Like, yes, there's a clear shift in theme and tone, but overall I actually think they fit in together pretty well. It could obviously be better, but hey, we'll take what we can get. Especially because they already said they're gonna improve it. The real problem for me lies within the skybox. For some reason, Wuthering Waves renders in skyboxes based on your position in the world and not where your camera is facing. And this ends up being a huge immersion breaker. It doesn't make sense that you'd see these weird donut icing shapes only when you step foot into Mournfell Canyon. Like, look how big they are. You should be able to see them from all across Septimont, but you can't. Part of the beauty of open worlds is seeing something interesting in the distance and making your way to said thing. It would add so much to the world if you could see all this from anywhere in Septimont or even Raguna, but you just can't, and that's something I really wish Gura would fix, because it really shatters the immersion during exploration, which sucks because immersion is one of the aspects Septimont excels at. Okay, so the last problem I have with Septimont may seem a bit nitpicky at first, but bear with me. This boss should not exist. Okay, let me explain. Firstly, I want you to keep in mind that what I loved the most about Septimont was how immersive and real it felt. Almost everything in this region has a purpose and a reason for being there, and I think that's amazing. Now, do be warned, there are spoilers for the 2.4 main story quest ahead. So currently in the story, Rover and Cardathia are in two different timelines. In Cardathia's timeline, Arsenosa was affected by the Dark Tide, resulting in a duel between them. Makes sense. But in Rover's timeline, he won the Great Aegon and as a result earned Arsenosa's blessing. So then why is it that when I enter the Great Colosseum, Arsenosa immediately chucks its spear at me and starts throwing hands? Bitch, you were praising me 5 minutes ago. It just doesn't make sense for us to fight it. And it's not just Arsenosa who has this problem, but a lot of the bosses introduced with Renacida as well. Like, there's no way this sentry construct is still malfunctioning after all this time. Imagine if you're exploring Mount Firmament and Jue just descends from the heavens and starts chucking lightning bolts at you. It just wouldn't make sense for it to be there even though you fought it as a boss at one point in the story. And the same goes for a lot of Renacida's bosses. Maybe something happens in the second half of 2.4 and I'll be eating my words. But for now, I don't see why these bosses aren't tucked away inside Sonorospheres the same way that the weekly Calamity bosses are. Again, it just really ruins the immersion the moment you sit down and think about it for even 1 second. So yeah, those are my complete thoughts on Septimont. This is definitely one of Kura's best regions to date, and apparently they're not even done. I'm really excited to see what the future of this game has in store, especially with how fast the devs are improving and listening to feedback. I just really hope they take more care to not shatter the immersion with certain features, since that's my biggest problem with the game so far. But that's enough for me. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe, and if you didn't, then feel free to tell me why in the comments sections down below. Bye!